So let's talk about the sort of liberal meltdown on Joe Rogan simply saying that he might vote for Bernie Sanders in the presidential elections. My name is Sham Sharma. Welcome to the Sham Sharma Show. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Sham Sharma Show. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. So Bernie Sanders' campaign recently tweeted a clip from Joe Rogan's podcast where Joe Rogan was basically saying that he would vote for Bernie in the presidential elections.
Who are you going to vote for in the primary?
I think I'll probably vote for Bernie. Him as a human being, when I was hanging out with him, and I believe in him. I like him a lot. He's been insanely consistent his entire life. He's basically been saying the same thing, been for the same thing his whole life.
Also, by the way, Joe still maintains that Tulsi is his favorite, but he feels like Bernie has the best chance of getting the nomination. And if Bernie does get the nomination in a competition between Bernie and Trump, he'll most likely vote for Bernie Sanders. And almost on cue, a complete liberal meltdown happened on social media because apparently Bernie Sanders, who all the liberals love, getting an endorsement from probably the most influential media person in America is now a bad thing. Here's a tweet from former Vox journalist Carlos Maza. He said, Bernie's campaign cutting a campaign ad with Joe Rogan effing sucks. Rogan is an incredibly influential bigot and Democrats should be marginalizing him. Jody Jacobson asked, is this okay with you? The campaign video lauding the endorsement of a man known to be a misogynist, a racist, a homophobe, a transphobe, a white nationalist. This is okay? I need to know. I am literally crushed by this. Joe Rogan is a transphobic bigot who shills for quackery and cuddles up to dangerous racists, claimed Mikey Franklin. Appearing on his show is bad but understandable. Publicizing an endorsement is indefensible. Eli Valley said Rogan can vote for whomever he wants, but I don't think the Bernie campaign should be touting a transphobic creep who gives a platform to Nazis. Vox journalist Aaron Rupar said, imagine how you feel seeing Sanders embrace a transphobe if you're trans. So why is he a transphobe? Is it because he said that in sports, particularly in mixed martial arts, which is a sport that he absolutely loves, he said that in that sport, somebody who is a biologically male should not be competing against biologically female women. They naturally often have a massive size and power advantage, and women competing against them could actually get pretty badly hurt. And also, it's pretty unfair to the biological women. And he always cites the case of Fallon Fox, who was a biologically male MMA fighter who was getting into the ring and beating the crap out of women. This is what I don't understand about these people. They keep going on and on and on and on about how the Democrats absolutely have to win in 2020, because if they don't do that, America will be completely destroyed. At the same time, when probably the most influential media personality in America is endorsing a candidate that they like, they say no. Well, what do you want?
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? What do you want?
So look, there are two major issues and aspects to this attack on Joe Rogan by, mainstream media personalities. The first is just straight up jealousy. A lot of these media people are extremely jealous of Joe Rogan because this comedian, this stand-up comedian, this jock, this MMA commentator has 100 times the audience and influence that these guys could ever dream of having. They spent so many years in college, spent so many thousands of dollars getting their journalism degrees, and then they go to work for the New York Times, then they go to work for Washington Post and organizations like Vox. But then who has 100 times more influence than any of these people put together? Bloody Joe Rogan. They just can't get over it. Look at how absolutely no one cared about the endorsement of the New York Times editorial panel and how everybody cares about Joe Rogan's endorsement. The other issue is what a closed, narrow, and absolutely hypocritical club the sort of woke left has become. There's another great tweet about this whole issue. Linda Sarsour, cool. Sean King, no worries. Rashida Tlaib, A-OK. Ilhan Omar, nice. Cenk Uygur sure thinks somebody who denied the Armenian genocide for a long time. And then Joe Rogan. How dare Bernie associate with him? See, when I make videos about India on my other channel, my Hindi channel, I always talk about how the left in India has reached a point where disagreement is completely not allowed. And that's exactly what we're seeing on certain sections of the left in the United States as well. Here you have a guy who is a liberal in every sense of the word. This guy has voted Democrat pretty much his entire life. He has progressive viewpoints on most issues that matter to progressives, like gay rights, like trans rights, like women's rights, abortion, religion, all of these things. This guy is an atheist, and he's also someone who indulges in, psychedelic drugs, something that the conservatives hate. But just because he supports the Second Amendment, and just because he likes to have conversations with people from across the political spectrum, that makes him a bigot. That makes him a white supremacist. So Sadie Doyle said, Joe Rogan also had friendly conversations with Milo Yiannopoulos, and Jordan Peterson yelled, "You're a effing man," on air about a trans woman, vocally argued against allowing trans kids puberty blockers this year, says and believes the world is stacked against men. So enjoy. First and foremost, man, giving puberty blockers to children is kind of ridiculous. Look, a 5-6-year-old, hell, even a 10-year-old doesn't really know what they want. A kid that age doesn't even know his ass from a hole in the ground. So let them get a little older, and when they're a little older, if they still feel like they need to make certain hormonal changes to truly feel comfortable in their body, go for it. I absolutely 100% support that. But giving children puberty blockers is not because that's exactly what the children want, because that's what the parents want for them. The parents want to give these children puberty blockers so then they can virtue signal on social media and virtue signal to their friends about how wonderful and how progressive they really are. And also talking about some of the guests that he's had on his show as well. Let's talk about Milo Yiannopoulos. When Milo went on Joe Rogan's show, he was flying high in these sort of conservative circles for all of his opinions, for all of the things that he was saying. And that's when he went on the Joe Rogan show, and he got completely exposed by Joe Rogan on that podcast as well. When he was talking about how Christianity is the only way for cultures and countries to be moral, and that the only moral ethical code comes from the Bible. And he said all of this while being gay, and Joe completely exposed the stupidity of his argument, and on top of that, the hypocrisy of the argument, given what Christianity thinks about homosexuality.
That's a ridiculous statement. Everywhere that doesn't have Judeo-Christian values is a fucked up place. If you think that the only way for a person to have ethics or an understanding of each other or compassion for each other is to rely on ancient myths that are easily scientifically disproven, well, that's what Christianity is. But who you are, being a gay man,
who I am.
that's
how
promiscuous,
I behave. It's what I do.
But that is prohibited in the Bible.
Yes, but I agree that it would be better if I didn't behave like this, and if I could
choose to
be
be
heterosexual,
so you're a
I would do so.
Self-loathing homosexual.
No, and I won't have this. You need to read a wonderful essay by Bret.
No, I don't need to read shit. I need to know what the fuck you're saying.
Okay, so Bret,
because what you're saying is who you are. It's not who you, prohibited in the Bible.
You are.
Does this guy sound like a bigot here? And another example, in the clip that Bernie Sanders campaign shared, the person who asked Joe Rogan the question about Bernie Sanders, that's Bari Weiss. Bari Weiss, you might remember, was also flying high when she published her very famous article about the intellectual dark web in the New York Times. That got a lot of traction, and Bari Weiss got a lot of mainstream attention. And then Bari Weiss went on the Joe Rogan podcast and then got completely exposed there again. When Joe asked her about Tulsi Gabbard, Bari Weiss came out and made completely unsubstantiated claims when she came out and said that Tulsi Gabbard's an Assad toady. And when Joe Rogan pressed her as to why she thinks so, does she have any proof? All Bari Weiss basically said was, I think so. That's what I've heard. And she didn't even know what toady meant. She also lied about Tulsi Gabbard being a homophobe, and she also lied about Tulsi Gabbard's 100% positive record when it comes to LGBTQ rights. And Joe, all he did was kept asking her thoughtful questions, and all Bari Weiss did in response to those questions was just continue to dig her own grave. And it is because of that podcast that she did with Joe Rogan that she lost a lot of credibility in a lot of people's eyes. The same thing happened with Candace Owens as well. You might remember Candace Owens was this black conservative rising star, and she got a massive amount of mainstream attention when Kanye West tweeted about how she likes how Candace Owens thinks. Then she went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and there she got completely exposed for having absolutely zero knowledge about climate change, but still saying that she does not believe in climate change at all.
You don't think we have to care about the environment? Like, what do you
No, not even a little bit. Like,
Not even a little bit?
No.
Okay, but this is an incredibly complicated subject.
Right.
And if you would have to talk to a bunch of different scientists and see how they gather data and see what they understand about CO2 levels and what's the danger of them and what can combat it and what could not. Have you done all this, or
No,
do you
so I
take
think-
this flippant opinion
it's
based
listen,
on the
I'm
party
not. This
line?
is not to.
It's very little.
Yep.
Very little disparity. Most scientists, the vast majority agree that human beings are negatively affecting climate change. Even if you're right, you don't have enough information to say that.
Right. No.
You might be
but that's why I
correct.
said. This is the whole
But you're
point.
saying you don't believe
I
it.
don't. Yeah. I would have to have someone sit down and convince me that it was real. I personally don't believe it. That's okay.
But why?
It's good to
but-
start
but
at a
here's the
place of
thing.
not believing
But
something.
no, it's not.
You think you should start with believing everything.
No, it's not believe either or. Not believe yes, not believe no.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't believe.
Yeah.
Learn about it.
Yeah.
She just said that she doesn't believe in climate change because she doesn't believe the scientists, and she believes that the scientists don't have enough proof and that the scientists don't know what they're talking about. Again, what did Joe do? Did Joe give her a free pass? No, he just kept pushing back. He just kept asking her thoughtful questions, and Candace Owens just kept on digging a hole for herself. And again, like many people who had just started to hear about Candace Owens, even I was very interested in what she had to say, but the way she conducted herself on the Joe Rogan podcast, she lost a lot of credibility in the eyes of a lot of mainstream viewers, including myself. So look, this is not a white supremacist that invites conservatives to his podcast and just gives them softball interviews and softball questions. He asks people thoughtful questions that force these people to clearly and fully explain their positions. So if you're someone who backs your positions with facts, you'll do well. If you're someone whose positions are not backed by facts and you can't properly explain them, then you will not do well. That is how he conducts his interviews. And isn't that exactly what a good interviewer should be doing? And that is why, in my opinion, Joe Rogan is one of the best interviewers on the planet. He's the kind of liberals that most liberals are, that I like to think I am that kind of a liberal as well. Most liberals are not stuck in this extreme mindset. Most liberals like to hear viewpoints from both sides of the political spectrum, and then they pick and choose what they like and what they don't like. But I like a lot of the things that the left says, and I also like a lot of the things that conservatives say. Look, human beings are complex. That's just how they work. But if you think that you can live in your narrow, extremely rigid bubble and you can cast aside anyone who doesn't completely agree with you on everything, and you still hope to win the 2020 elections, then man, what the hell are you smoking, and can I have some? And I want to ask you as well, do you guys consider Joe Rogan to be some sort of an ultra-conservative person as well? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section down below. Again, guys, if you liked today's episode, make sure to leave a like, leave a thumbs up. It helps me out. It helps the channel out a great deal as well. And again, guys, if you like the Sham Sharma show and if you'd like to support this show, make sure to click on the Patreon link in the description down below. Become a patron of the show. The brand new mugs are coming out, so if you have not provided your address for the mugs to be delivered to you, make sure to go on Patreon and make sure to do that right now so that the mugs can get to you in good time. If you like the Sham Sharma show, if you like today's episode, and if you have not subscribed already, what are you doing? Click on the subscribe button down here. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to press the bell icon as well. And we have a video here and a video here that you should go check out as well. I am sure you will like them too. I will see you for the next episode. I will see you next time. And until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys soon.